always delighted to speak to somebody in the what you could argue is HQ of the automotive world in many ways. Plenty of people would disagree with that, but I will acknowledge that's what it is. So where are we? Yeah, you guessed it, Detroit. So Detroit in the United States is where so much of the story of automotive has been written. The question is, how much of the future is it going to write? So I'm going to talk now to Helen Emsley. Helen is the Executive Director of Global GMC and Buick Design. I know her through LinkedIn and various other events, a Women in Automotive event in Stuttgart a couple of years ago in the good old days when we used to meet up with people. And International Women's Day was pretty spectacular for some amazing individuals telling us what they do. And I had the pleasure of being involved with some of that. And Helen was going to join us. But Helen, what happened? You were there and then you weren't there. What happened?
Yeah, I am so sorry, Roger. We did the pre-meeting and I was really looking forward to it. And literally, after the pre-meeting, we had 45 minutes to get back and I left everything set up in case I did anything wrong. And poof, all the power went out. We lost power in the building. It was actually a 5-mile square power outage. So we lost internet, we lost power, and you know me, I couldn't just sit at my desk. I mean, I could have probably rigged up my phone to do wireless or whatever, but I needed to check that all my people were safe because we had people stuck in elevators. We had a couple of people, but we got them out. We did get them out.
Word. Yeah.
So, but you can imagine a building of this size with all the people. So I'm afraid that's what happened. And we eventually got the power back, but it was too late. You'd already finished the call. So my apologies.
Well, don't worry about that. I'm just, glad everyone's okay. I mean,
everybody was fine.
Do you not think for a year, don't you think we've all got really good at coping with unexpected events?
Absolutely. Everybody, no one panicked. No one panicked. Even the 2 people stuck in the elevator, we were all talking to them through the door, but they were able to get a ladder from the floor above and they got them out. I mean, no one panicked. Everybody just has learned to deal with so many things that are thrown at them. And got through it.
Yes. Well, I can tell you're English, Helen, by your voice. And of course, you're familiar with that very famous poster that says, keep calm and carry on. That's exactly it. Anyway, listen, can I just, I've got a few questions I'd like to share with people. I'd like you to share with people who you are and what you're doing. You're on an amazing journey. You're in a challenging environment of change within the automotive industry. So yeah, I'd love to know, just remind us, how long have you been in the automotive industry? And I mentioned your title earlier, but what exactly are your responsibilities? Can you tell us those, please?
Absolutely. With pleasure. So I've been in the automotive industry for 31 years, so it shows my age now. 31 years. Yes. I did all 31 years with GM as well. I did, let me think, 9 years to Opel in Germany to begin with. And then 22 years ago, they transferred me here to North America. So it's been a long career, but I've really enjoyed it. I must admit, it's what I love to do.
Wow.
And now I am responsible. Well, when I first started, actually, I used to work in Cullen Trim, so I did all the materials at Opel. And now I run GMC and Buick Design globally. So I'm in charge of all the interior and exterior of all the vehicles for GMC and Buick. But I also have in my studios I'm responsible at the moment for all the refreshes of like Escalade and the Suburban. So all the big SUVs and the trucks, my team works on all of those.
Wow. Well, we're kindred spirits to a degree because I've been in the automotive industry just over 30 years as well. Although I've been a little bit more of a gypsy, if I'm honest. I've been, a traveller. I've been here and there. I'm not going to go through my story. People can, hear that another time maybe. But let me ask you this. I kind of know the answer, but I watched I thought it was a very, very good message in January at CES. I was just trying to remember what it was then. It was in January at CES. It was the keynote from GM, and I was really knocked out by it because I thought it was comprehensive. It was exciting, and obviously a lot of it was about electric vehicles, which inevitably, because that's my background, I liked. But is that the one and only? Is that the trend that's kind of encompassing everything right now, in your opinion, electrification?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I mean, you know, from what Mary said at CES, we're really working on the electric. It is the future. But I mean,
Yeah.
we're still working on some of the gas vehicles because, of course, you know, we still have to build those, the gas and the diesel trucks. But yes, it is very much all about electric and how we can make it work and how GM can make it across all the brands. We can make the different electric vehicles work. So yes.
Yes, and you've had a new president for the last couple of months, and he seems pretty keen on electric vehicles one way or another. So I definitely think you're all pointing in the right direction over there in the US, which is great. But let me be a bit more kind of personal, if I may, than of you. I will confess and admit that and acknowledge that the automotive industry is a hugely male-dominated industry in many ways. And I'm not saying everything about that's bad, but it has got in the way of a lot of change that perhaps could and should have happened that would have been for the better. So in your 31-year journey, what's the kind of biggest challenge that you've had to overcome, given that arena that you know, perhaps we can all admit the industry has got?
Okay. Okay, I'll be honest with you, because you and I have laughed about this before. Yes, I am English and I'm from Yorkshire, so I'm kind of a tough northern person, okay? So
Yeah.
I've kind of, yeah, whatever I've come across, I've dealt with it, you know, and I've never, to me, it's been a challenge, okay? I look at it as a challenge, and I've never let anything hold me back. Yeah, you know, I left England, went to Germany, I've never let it hold back. But I'd say the toughest one for me, and I don't know whether it was just because I was a woman, but I think this is the toughest one for me. I ran colour and trim globally, and that was what I loved to do. It was my passion. I ran those studios. I did a lot of traveling with it. And then Ed Wellborn asked me to go into the car studios. And I'm like, okay, that was my background doing car design. But you know, you've been in the automotive industry. There is a pecking order.
Yeah.
There really is a pecking order. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. If you're an exterior design, you're the elite. Interiors, they want, you know, and then colour and trim and all the accessories and everything else is further down the pecking order. So for all of a sudden, there I am running colour and trim to go into the studios and tell these guys how to design these interiors and then exteriors. I think that was the hardest decision, and it was tough. And it wasn't because I was a woman. I think it was because of my background. So, and then also Ed gave me the trucks to do all the truck interiors and Corvette. And Corvette is an American car. It's an idol. You know
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden to be a female in charge of the Corvette and you did colour and trim, I think that was the toughest. But you know what? I loved it. I really, really did. I just saw it as the biggest challenge I've ever had to do. So that was
good for you. Good for you. And I've been married for 36 years to a Yorkshire person, so I know what we're talking about here.
Exactly.
And by the way, in regard to that pecking order,
Yeah.
you know, here's something to think about or say next time you're talking to people. You spend a lot more time inside a vehicle than just
Absolutely.
looking at it. So I would have thought the interior, in many ways, you know, the human machine interface, all that stuff, that's much more important, really. But anyway, I think we're probably on the same side of that discussion.
Absolutely.
So you are inevitably, not just because of your seniority, but because of your journey over all of that time, doing the things that you've done, become, I'm sure, within the company and for people that know of you outside of the company, a role model, really. So, you know, what advice, if you picked one or two things as a bit of advice, would you give young engineers or young designers or young girls at school or university, anyone now thinking of this industry, especially with all the change going on in it? What advice would you give them, Helen?
I think the biggest advice I can give anybody is just be yourself. Don't be what you think don't think about what you think people want you to be. Be yourself. If you be yourself, you will not fail, because you're always going to be honest and you're going to have integrity. But that, because I see so many people in the past, they think, well, because I'm a woman, I'm in this world, it's all men in the office, I've got to stand up. And no, just be yourself. If you know the answer, answer it. If you don't know it, don't say I don't know. So just be, that's the biggest thing I can say, is be yourself.
Yeah. So if you think of your journey then, and all the things that you've done, who would you Are there a number of people that you would say you'd acknowledge have been your kind of, not necessarily mentors, but people that you've thought, you know, I like how that person is behaving, you know, men or women, people that have inspired you to think, I'll do this a bit differently. I'll still be myself, you know, to the point you make.
Absolutely.
But you know, can you give us a few people? Maybe they're well-known people, maybe not. But you know,
okay, yeah.
Who would you sort of put up there?
Okay, I've met a lot through the years. I really have. And a lot of the names that I can mention you all know. But I just remember one chief engineer that I dealt with some years ago, actually when I was pregnant with my son, so it's 18 years ago. Right. And a lot of people, especially, I'm being honest now, here in America, a lot of the guys, their wives are stay-at-home wives. So there I am, all of a sudden I'm running a Colin Trim studio and I'm having my first child. And a lot of people the first question they would ask me is, well, how long are you going to take off when your son's born? And I'm like, the minimum. This is, you know, so I had a lot of people really making comments to me. And I remember this chief engineer after a meeting came up to me and said, don't listen to any of these people. I grew up in an industry in engineering where there was hardly any women and I had 2 children. She says, and I did, one time I took a year off and one time I took minimum off. She says, take the minimum, be yourself, do your job. And she said, it has not affected my kids. In fact, actually, the one that I took the less time, I had the least problems. So that was some really good advice to me, to not listen to what people or be judged. Because I remember saying, I went to college to do this. I don't want to take time off. I love my son, but the more I do with my job, the happier I am. And when I go home, I'm happy. So she gave me some really good advice. And I've remembered Anna, and she's retired now, but she was great. She gave me some really good advice.
I think any of us that have been in any kind of industry for a long time, there's always that one person. There is always that someone that they change your life. You know, they just give you that confidence, or they give you a bit of inspiration in something. That's lovely to hear. That's great. So
I can tell you another one if you want as well.
Yeah, please.
I can tell you another really good one, and it's somebody you all know of, Mary Barra. I met Mary years ago before she was the position she is now, when she was the executive director of paint when I was in Colin Trim. And I kept arguing with some of the paint engineers for quite a while that our development time was longer than anybody else's. And it used to drive me crazy as a designer. Whatever paints the suppliers would bring in I could pick them, but I couldn't get them till a year after Ford and Toyota, everybody else. And I kept asking, I just want the same development time as them. And Mary came out of DHAM as the manager and became the executive director of paint. And she worked with me and helped me. And we took a year out of the development time at GM. So she was great. And that's how I first met Mary. And we took a year out the timing.
And she's done okay, hasn't she? I
think she's done okay.
Yeah, you know, and again, I think you know, one of my my principal opinion in all of this, in the involvement with individuals like you and plenty of other people, and this principle of where are we with gender equality or gender balance. In my view, it's nothing to do with, well, that's how I see it, nothing to do with political correctness or anything other than, if half of the population, you know, are talented, just as talented as the other half, why would you seemingly, through whatever practice or inadvertent sometimes practice, ignore them or not give them the same opportunity? It doesn't make business sense. You know, in a world where we're always looking for talent, where we always need creative people, you know, industrious people, then there is no difference between one half of the population, the male half, and the other half. It doesn't make any sense. So purely, if I'm frank with you, purely from a business point of view, I think it just makes total sense to embrace everybody. Absolutely. And then pick the best people out of that pool, not just have half of it. And when I watched that CES keynote, as I mentioned, obviously Mary's the boss. She opened up, she gave it the context, but there were so many people in that were really impressive. They just happened to be women, like Pam Fletcher, for example.
Yeah, I know Pam.
You know, and when you look at the complexity and challenge in and around battery development, in and around changing the commercial vehicle arena from what it's been, well, forever, into now this shift towards electrification, you need people with tenacity, with, you know, knowledge, with, of course, experience, and the ability to drive that through and create and develop a managed transition. Those people are all on stage with Mary, and it just struck me. There seems to be a culture, and it must come from the top. It must be about Maryborough. And to be blunt, and I'm not going to name names, where at other OEMs around the world, it's far too macho. There's a culture in it, quite frankly, and I'm going to use the word, of bullying. And that actually does not stimulate the right sort of development of a business. It pushes back innovation. It takes people who want to be bold and offer up new ideas. You know, they don't stand up. They you know, whether they're men or women, they don't. So I think this is all very important. So give us a final sense and a flavour then, please, Helen, on, you know, if this is a big advert for, you know, why come to work for GM? Why come to work in the automotive industry, given all of this change going on? Is it the best of times or is it the worst of times?
I think this is the best of times. I really do. I think there's more happening now. I know Mary's even said this. There's more happening now in the next 5 years than the last 50 years. Yeah. I mean, this really is the time of invention. And some of the people, I mean, like you said, it doesn't matter what gender you are, whatever you are. Some of the people that are leaving colleges, they're so smart. They've got great ideas. Now that's been embraced. Where years ago, people didn't want change. We've done it. I mean, I've heard it in my career. We've done it this way for the past 20 years. Why should we change? We've all heard it. Yeah. But this is, I really do think this is the most exciting time. People are speaking up. People have great ideas. It's actually being welcomed rather than being challenged. So I really do think it's a great time. I mean, we're doing in the studios, we're not only, I mean, we work on the programs that we have, absolutely. And then, but we're working on things for the future. And no idea is a bad idea. We're trying things out. So a few things we look at it and think, oh, no, maybe not, you know, get rid of that model. You know, no one else going to ever see that, thank goodness. But this is the time to try. If we don't try, we're never going to succeed. So I really think this is a great time.
Fortune favours the brave, as they say.
Absolutely.
And anyone from Yorkshire, of course. You know,
absolutely, of course. We would never hold back.
Goes without saying. Helen Emsley, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. You're always so full of energy and enthusiasm for things. You know, I'm not surprised you've done well. And, you know, I really look forward to talking to you again. I think there's going to be another Women in Automotive Summit. I think it's in June. So it's not too far away. I'm sure that will be an absolutely fantastic arena for great ideas and really impressive people to come together. So without doubt, I'm sure you're going to be part of that. So I wish you well, wish that event in June well, and absolutely wish GM well on the journey towards especially electrification. As you know, I'm a particular fan of that.
I know. Thanks, but like I said, the offer's there. When you're next in Detroit, come and see us. We'll show you some of the things.
I definitely will. And I've had my fingers crossed all the time that the power stayed on, and it has.
I know. Thank goodness. Somebody paid the bill.
Thanks a lot, Helen. See you again soon.
Thanks. Always a pleasure, Roger. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.